CJ Peterson, and welcome to The Journey is Real. We talk to real people with real passions who share a real portion of their hearts. Today, my special guest today is Eric Protein Moseley. We're going to be talking about his passion, which is reaching the homeless on another level. And you've been a joy so far to talk to, so I'm really excited about today. Thank you for coming on today, Eric.
Oh, CJ, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, my pleasure.
Awesome. You have a unique perspective on homelessness. Would you please share with those listening what that is?
I'm gonna have a unique perspective on homelessness. What I want people to do is to learn about the three classes of homelessness first, which is upper, middle, and lower class. The upper class is an individual, he or she takes care of their hygienes, trying to make it back into the mainstream of society, and probably couch surfing or living on, at a shelter or something of that nature. Now, the lower class homeless individual is the one that's out on the streets, pushing the buggy, not trying to take care of his or her hygienes and not trying to make it back into the mainstream of society. And the middle class is just the one that's in between the middle, that's not trying to fall into the lower class and possibly trying to make it back up into the higher class of homelessness. So before I talk about anything about homelessness, I try to let the people get the perspective that there's three different classes before they push them all in that lower class of homelessness.
That's unique. I haven't heard that before. So thank you for clarifying that.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. So what is your connection to homelessness?
My connection with homelessness is that I was a single parent homeless individual for 20 years, traveling across the country in the pursuit of happiness while I was on drugs at the same time. And I eventually, got clean off of drugs, raised my daughter. I became a homeless advocate and a documentary filmmaker. And my daughter has also become that as well. But me and my daughter, me being on drugs, I tell everybody on every podcast, I took my daughter through pure hell, but God allowed her to be with me. And, we made it through and we became these powerful assets as far as homelessness. So I want to go back and be able to pull other homeless people out and to let people know that aren't homeless is that there's some good people out on the streets that are just waiting to be discovered.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I came from I'm a domestic violence survivor. And so I was part of the upper because I was in a shelter. And so I had to completely start over from scratch. And so I get it and I fully understand the perspective of that and starting over with pretty much literally the bags on your back. It's not an easy thing to do. It is probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do. But when you stay focused on it and you're motivated and you're pushing yourself more than you thought you could, you can do amazing things. So can you, on the journey as well, we like to talk about the journey itself as well. Can you share what took you to the streets, how you got off the streets? You've kind of glazed over the top of it. Can you go a little deeper?
Okay, so you want me to start from the beginning, like how I got into that position? Okay, so I grew up in the city of Detroit, Michigan. I went to Northwestern High School, the same high school that the Temptations, Smokey Robinson, and all of them went to. But I didn't make it to high school. I did make it through. I went right through the front door and right out the back, so I made it through. So I was gambling, smoking weed, doing drugs, and trying to just make money like on a street hustle, things of that nature. And then I ended up picking up all these bad habits. I started doing crack cocaine. And then I went from that to become a homeless single parent by just traveling across the country. First, it was me and my daughter's mother together. And then I became a single homeless parent by myself. So it was just like steps that happened. It wasn't just some wrecking ball that just hit me. It was like a lot of bad decisions that I made and me doing drugs and just, not doing the right thing. But that's how I ended up becoming homeless. And it was a reason.
What made the turnaround? Because it sounds like you were going down a downward path. What made you turn it around? What made you take that spin?
Well, what made me take that spin was actually, I always knew it was the wrong thing to do. And so I think in 2011, I overdosed in front of my daughter in a hotel in Seattle. Wow. And I was doing drugs and I was smoking weed and, I was just getting back off into it because I was thinking like, hey, well, maybe drugs wasn't so bad. And so I almost died in front of my daughter. I took a hit and my heart almost beat up out of my chest, CJ. And my daughter was sitting there on the other bed looking at me like, Daddy, no. And so I ran in the bathroom. I went in there and I took off all my clothes so that I could run the water over my body so that it could bring the temperature down off of me. And it did. It did bring the temperature down off of me. But my daughter came in the bathroom and I'm there on all fours in the tub and I'm butt naked there. And it was just like the most embarrassing part of my life. And so I started thinking about what would have happened to my daughter had I would have died. And where would she be at today? And not just that, what kind of father is that that's sitting up there overdosing in front of my daughter? And so it was a lot of things, a combination of that and a lot of things. I had God in my life, and God was always directing me as to be like, hey, you're going to be a powerful asset in life, so you can't be out here getting high. So it was just time. The season had came for me to stop.
Got it. Wow, that's powerful. Thank you for being transparent on that. You've taken, being from a homeless situation yourself, it allows you to see the world through a different eyes and propels you to want to help people in that community. How do you do that? What are you doing to help people that are in that community to better themselves and to get up off the streets or to move forward and jump up a level in the different levels?
Well, actually, I go out and I talk to them on the streets and those that want help, because you can't help anyone that doesn't want help. So what I try to do is motivate them to want help. So what I do, like, it's mostly older African-American gentlemen. So what I'll do is go back and play some Smokey Robinson, Diana Ross and stuff. Oh, yeah. And they'll start getting back into it and, start remembering back when they were in high school or junior high school. And it'll snap them back to that. And so once I get them,
throwing them like a life preserver of memories to pull them back.
Yes, to pull them back to where they were at BC, which is I call before. And so once they get into that,
I just lost you before what?
Before crack, that's BC, 1975 BC, before crack. And so once they start getting off into that, then they want to learn more. And so I try to teach them, it's like, just like a computer, like if you get on a computer and it jams up, the computer asks you, would you like to reboot this computer back to an earlier date? And so that's what I tell them, let's reboot your mind back to 1975 when you were going to dances and wearing alligator shoes and things of that nature. And they start thinking about that and they get that motivation.
I love that. That is awesome. I think that's great because you're reminding them what life was like and what life can be like again. And I think that's great.
Thank you. And I actually have a book called, what is that book called? I'm so sorry. It's called The Original Recipe to Recover. And it's talking about the 3 steps of recovery, which is wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Once you get wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, you can overcome anything: homelessness, drugs, a bad marriage, or anything. So I encourage anybody to get those 3 things in their lives and apply that to your drug addiction, to anything that you're feeling in life, and you'll find yourself progressing.
I love that. How can they find that book?
It's on Amazon, and they can go to Amazon, Eric Moseley, or The Original Recipe for Recovery, Eric Moseley, and it's there.
Perfect. And is it in Kindle and in paperback?
It's not in paperback, it's just in Kindle, but it's like $1.99, I think, download. And if anyone can afford it, and if they were to contact me, I would give it to them for free, because it's not even about money, it's about changing lives.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so for those who want to find you online, how do they find you online?
Easy, you can just Google my name, which is Eric Protein Moseley, and you'll see everything that's on there, all my Twitter handles, my Facebook, and then you'll see my email address. And so everything is right there.
Okay, and then you mentioned earlier that your handle is at Eric Moseley 18, at EricMoseley and the number 18. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Now, for those listening who might find themselves in one of those 3 levels, are there any immediate resources that they can tap into that you're aware of?
Yes, there are plenty of resources. Like, I don't know whatever city a person is in, but the main thing a person needs to do is really to get resources, is to talk to other homeless people, because they're walking encyclopedias. Then if you don't feel comfortable talking with a homeless person, then you go to a homeless shelter or then go look online. But the best thing to do is get word of mouth from someone who is out on the street. 9 times out of 10, they're probably not even using those resources, but they have those resources to give to people who are willing to use them themselves.
But you have to make the step forward. Before
Yep.
It's kind of like, I'm a domestic violence survivor. You can't stop somebody from being in a relationship that doesn't want to leave. And when you're talking to people and you see that spark and that twinkle back in their eyes from you reminding them of what life was like, then great, that person will probably take a hold of this and move forward. And so you're helping people and guiding people back to the point that will let them take that step that they have to take. You can't take it for them. They have to take that step.
Yeah, and I like the way you compare that to domestic violence, because it's something either you want out or you don't. And like with domestic violence, some people say, well, I just stayed for the kids, or I just stayed for this and that. And some people with homelessness, they like, well, I just stayed because, it's easy to get this and it's easy, nobody cares about me. But that individual themselves has to want to get out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, no one says it's going to be easy, but it'll be worth it. Anything that's worth it will take work.
Yes. And I just tell people that, like, listen, when you quit getting high, don't expect for God to just drop in everything that he's doing and come and cater to you, because just like in the book of Proverbs, that's what helped me get back onto my right track too. And God was saying in Proverbs, hey, look, you said it, none of my counsel, you despised all of my reproofs. So therefore, I'm gonna let you be fulfilled with all of the vices that you asked for. It doesn't mean I'm gonna keep you there, but until you really show God, you're gonna stay into that same situation. So really, even after, this is what I like to tell people. They think like as soon as you quit, then bam, you're gonna get a new Lexus. You're gonna know it's not gonna happen like that. You went through all of that hardship. It's a lot of recovery in there. If you got high for 20 years, expect 10 or 15 of those years getting your mind just back to normal, standards. So that's what makes people relapse, because it's like, well, wow, I stopped getting high for 6 months. Yeah, but you've been getting high for 20 years or whatever your and so you have to be patient.
Yeah, there's generally a rule of thumb for counseling. So as a counselor for a while, is however long it took you to get in that mess, it's going to take you twice as long to get out, because you are basically rewiring your brain, especially when you're dealing with chemical abuse. You are literally rewiring your brain with that chemical. So you have to rewire it back out.
Wow, I never looked at it like that. I was just thinking it's like a time lapse, but it's not a time lapse. It's a healing.
Yeah, and it generally takes about twice as long. It's kind of like when you get a cut, a really bad cut. When you cut it, takes seconds. It's done. But that's got to heal, and you got to continue to keep it clean. You got to continue to put the antibiotic on it. You got to continue to change the bandages on it. It's not going to heal overnight. It's going to take time to heal, but eventually it will heal. You'll have the scar, but that scar reminds you of what you were able to heal from.
I'm going to have to steal that analysis from you, CJ. So if you hear me on somebody else, I'm going to say, CJ taught me that.
Go for it. Because it's, we're all human. We're all part of the human race. We're all in this together. We don't like seeing people who are suffering.
Right.
Unfortunately, with social media the way it is, a lot of times people put this mask on that everything is, daisies and rainbows and unicorns, and that's not how it works. That's why I started The Journey is Real. I wanted people to understand that real life doesn't happen that way. I want real people to come on and share their real journeys, so people know that they're not alone in this journey and in this walk. That's the general overall purpose behind The Journey is Real. That's where it got its name. That's where I got the real people, real passions, real hearts. The hearts of people are genuinely for other people, unless you're psychotic, then we got to talk. But for the most part, people want to help other people to succeed, and they're not in competition with other people. And so, when we can help somebody else out, that's where our hearts and generally where our passions lies. It's what you do with that particular, what you do with your passion is what guides you and what stands out. Each of us, God made us all each different for a reason. It allows each of us to reach somebody else on a different level, because it's something that we walk through. You've walked through homelessness, which is why you can reach homeless people on a completely different level than somebody else who can't.
Right. And it's something that you can't learn with a degree or anything. Like when I talk to people about going out on the street, they're like, well, how should I act or what to do? And I say, the first thing you need to do is leave your degrees at home. Don't tell them you have no degree. Let them think that you have just been walking up and down the street your whole life, just like how, anybody else. But once you go, well, I got a master's in this, I got that, you're going to intimidate people. So you have to kind of like downgrade yourself as far as.
Well, it's not even that. It's that you need to speak through your heart and not through a book.
Exactly.
Life is real. Life is not a book. Life is not academics. You need to have nothing in this world will measure up. No amount of education will measure up to experience and street smarts. Nothing. I don't care who you are. They don't measure up. You need to be your genuine self whenever you're talking to somebody and share your heart. People don't care what you know till they know that you care. When you care about them and you show them that, and you go down and, like you said, you're playing that music with them, you're connecting with them and you're showing them their heart, and they're like, oh, hey, he cares. I want to talk to him.
Yes. And that's the main thing is, like, when people ask me, well, what do they want? And most people think that the homeless people just want $1 and stuff like that, but they do. But the main thing they want is somebody up to them and say, hey, look, I care about you. Can I share this story with you right quick? Okay, I was in Columbia, South Carolina, and I was in a shelter there. And there was this one guy, and he was walking around, and he was telling everybody in the shelter, he said, when you guys go to sleep, I'm killing everybody up in here in the shelter. And he kind of looked at like Damon Wayans to me, right? So when I came in the shelter, everybody was standing around biting their nails and stuff. I said, what's wrong? And they said, he said he's gonna kill everybody in here. And I said, man, come here. I said, look, I gotta get up in the morning. I said, look, come here. I love you. I don't know about how they feel about you, but I love you. And I'm about to go to sleep right here, right now. He said, okay. And so I told them, I said, y'all tell this man y'all love him and y'all go to sleep because all he wants to know is somebody love him. They told him that everybody went to sleep. We woke up the next morning and was hugging and stuff like that.
Everybody's fine.
Yeah, he just wanted to be loved. But I told him, I said, you're not keeping me up all night. I know what you want and I know what you need and I'm going to give it to you. And they were like, are you going to sleep? I'm like, yes. I told the man I loved him.
Yeah, he's not going to hurt you. He knows that you care. And that's the beauty of it. You have a myriad of projects underneath your belt. And I know you're also passionate about what's going on in Texas culture. Being a Texan, I get it. Would you please share how you've connected the two of those?
Well, actually, I have a documentary, but airing on TextGov. But that'll probably been on the air by the time you show this, and it's called the Homeless Coronavirus Outreach. And this documentary has aired all around the country and even in different parts of the country. And it's about a father and daughter who team up to educate the homeless about the coronavirus and to their understanding.
I mean, at this point, you've got everybody who finally knows about it. But when you're homeless, what are you going to do about it?
Right. But at least you can know. You can't say that, hey, I didn't know. And so the ones that who do want to take, remember I told you have the 3 classes of homelessness, so that upper class who's just coming from his girlfriend's house, he or she might be like, oh, I don't want to catch that. And they might take precautionary and, do something different. And so within that documentary, it's a nonprofit organization that I'm trying to start. It's called Each One Teach One Infrastructure. And it's to what I'm trying to do is I'm teaching a thing called I made this up myself. It's called Bi-Complexity Dual Interaction. And it's to teach people how to obtain the capability to interact with the homeless and the mainstream of society, and to be able to communicate with both parties where they both fully understand each person's sense of direction. So what I want to do is get an individual called Homeless Outreach Public Safety Worker, and we're a tech company in Austin can hire one of those upper class homeless to be out on the street to have bi-complexity and dual interaction, because they're going to have a rapport with the streets of the homeless, and they're going to have a rapport with all of these people that are going on 6th and 7th Street to go out and drink. So when you're coming home and going back to your car, you see one of these tech companies that have been hired as a homeless outreach public safety, and you'll feel safer because, hey, this guy, he knows how to talk with them, he knows how to talk with us. And I think it'll just be a wonderful thing. And so what I'm trying to
providing a mediator.
Yes, I'm a mediator between the two, because I think that's the biggest problem. Everybody's over here on this side, and then everybody's on this side. And so nobody comes to communicate. And then what I want to also do is teach people how to use urban slang. I'm sorry about that, but yes, when you're downtown and you're around homeless, you can't be using all those high words and stuff. You got to come up like, hey, yo, what's good, yo? How you doing, cuz? Like, yo. You got to come to, not to say that your whole conversation be like that, but I want everybody to have at least the basics of urban slang. So if you get caught somewhere off in an alley somewhere in a parking lot, you know how to talk your way. Like, basically it's asking a homeless person like, hey, yo, what's up, man? How can I help you? What's good, yo? Stuff like that.
Well, and the way the country is right now, being so divided, I love that you're promoting unity, not just within the tech world versus homelessness, but in actual people on a personal level. You're actually getting down in there. You're not only reaching those that want the help, and you're also providing, hope. You're providing light, but you're teaching others how to work with that group as well. And it's not an easy task. It's monumental, to say the least. And like I said, I've come out of a domestic violence shelter, so I get it. And you're dealing with people the same way there. There are some who were like the go-getters. You didn't have to just kind of point them in the right direction, and they ran with it. And then there were some that just kind of milked it, and then when their time was up, they left. And so it's like, there are different types of people, but the key to the whole thing is understanding the people as a person, as an individual. And
Yes.
when we lump people together, homeless, tech, brains, jocks, punks, whatever they are. And it's like, when you classify people, you're creating a divide. I grew up all over the country. I was Army bred. I learned to look at people's heart. I don't care what color your skin is. Military says we all bleed red. That's what I look at when I look at somebody. And when I look at you, your heart is very bright and very light. And I love the fact that you are being a light to people who are living in darkness. Not just the homeless either. You're teaching people who are in the lower, upper, and middle class financially the same thing. You're showing them the connection, and I love that.
Thank you. And then another thing I want to add to that too is for the people of Texas. By me coming from California and being up in Silicon Valley and coming to Austin, see, I've been in.
I got to stop you for a second. You're going to have to be prepared. We have a lot of Texas jokes for the California transplants, so just be aware.
Oh, a lot of people went to California too. Came to California.
No, a lot of people from California are coming to Texas. So
exactly. That's the thing. And
we have a running joke. Don't California or Texas?
Oh my God, that's what I'm trying to say. So me being from California, see, I came up with these things. There's two different type of people. So you have money chasers and you have money getters. Texas are people like, well, I'm gonna put this. California are like money chasers. They wake up and they think money, money, money. Go get this, get this. But Texas, they get money too, but they're like money. They're like money getters. A Texas person to be like, hey, while you're out here running around getting this money, I'll just drill a hole in the ground, put a pump down there and pump up oil while you're doing all this stuff. So what I'm trying to tell the people in Texas is like what you just said, don't come out here turning Texas into California because you could have stayed there. And California will try to turn that state into
I
California.
don't see it happening, but they're welcome to try. But yeah, it's kind of like a running joke anymore to Texas, because it's like, we don't mind if you're coming. It's kind of like, we don't mind if you come here and join our culture. Don't try to change our culture to fit you.
Yes. And
it's
so
like, my husband's brother came here and he laughed. He goes, Texas is the only place where, he goes, I went to Lowe's to look for paint, and tons of people asked me if they needed help, and not one of them worked there. That's just how we roll. If you look like you're lost, we're going to ask you if we can help you and if we can guide you. That's just, we're polite. We kind of fight over who actually turns at the stop sign. You go first. No, you go first. No, you go first. We're family first. We're helpers. But we will hustle to make sure that family is taken care of.
And I love that. And that's one of the main reasons I want to move there. But also on the homeless population too, being up in Silicon Valley, I sat there, CJ, and I witnessed of how the tech invasion came in and how people that were born and raised in San Francisco could no longer afford to pay market rate rent. And so the same thing is happening in Austin, Texas right now. Austin, Texas has the highest rent in Texas right now. These tech companies are moving in right now. They have no plan of what's going to happen and push the people out that works at Wendy's and McDonald's and things like that. So I want to come in too. That's the reason why I want these tech companies to hire homeless individuals, so they can basically say they hire somebody, and then I want them to branch off into the lower class, not homeless, but just the lower class individuals, and give them some tech jobs as well, so they won't have to just outsource people to come in, where these people are going to school, pay for their grants, pay for their, their tuition and things of that. So they're already there. Don't push the people out who were born in Austin, Texas, or in Texas. just so that other people can come in and pay $2,000 for an apartment that's worth $700.
Yeah, whenever we go to visit his family in California, we are stunned by how much it is even for a gallon of milk. I mean, it makes it virtually impossible to live, which is why the homeless rate is so high in California. You
Yes.
can't live there. You can't afford to live there. You have to be a millionaire to live there, which if everybody's up here, you don't have any workers down here.
Right.
You have here on the upper, or you have all the way down the lower. You're not going to have any middle, and that's going to hurt the social and economical structure of any state, of any country. And so I do applaud you. You have about 2 minutes left. Is there anything you'd like to add?
The only thing I'd like to add is I'd like to reach out to Elon Musk or Joe Lonsdale or those guys on that level, and to get with me on the Each One Teach One infrastructure. And, and come in and just, you guys companies are hiring like 60,000. There's some companies in Austin, Texas hiring 60,000 people. Can you guys hire one homeless individual that's an upper class homeless who will never have to come to the office, who can work out in the field, and he's out there doing community service for the public? That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly, it's a catch-22. It's kind of like when you're coming out of that situation, if you don't have a vehicle, you have to have a vehicle to have a job. You have to have a home to have a job, because they have to call you on your house. You can have a cell phone, but in order to have a cell phone, you have to have a place to live, and you have to prove that you have utility. And so, I mean, now thankfully there's like track phones and stuff that you can get to have at least a cell phone, but you don't have a permanent residence. So how are they supposed to contact you via letter? What are you supposed to put down on your application? It's a serious catch-22. And for those who are trying to gain traction to move forward, they can't, because there's no one to reach down and say, hey, come on up here, let me show you how to do this, and we'll move on from there. If there were more companies that did that, there would be less people on the streets. There would be less families taken care of. And it's not just families, it is single individuals as well, but the families themselves are on the streets. We were driving in Houston, I think, and we saw underneath the set of like 5 bridges that went over top of each other, there was a homemade house, and I saw children's t-shirts hanging over that were drying, and it just broke my heart, because I'm just like, okay, first of all, they're in the middle of tons of traffic. I said, second of all, no child should live there, and that cannot be healthy, and it cannot be safe.
Right.
And so it's like, the more people that you reach out and help, the better the community as a whole is going to be. And I thank you for being transparent and sharing that message out.
Oh, I love doing it. It's my pleasure, CJ.
Well, and thank you for coming on today. My guest today was Eric Protein Moseley. You can find him online at his handle at EricMoseley18. Look for his documentary on where again?
That's going to be on texas.gov. That's public access in Austin, and they're going to be running it periodically.
Awesome. So check it out, look for him, see if you can find him. Just if you can't, just Google Eric Protein, as in the mineral protein, Eric Protein Moseley. Eric, again, thank you for coming on and for being transparent and sharing, your journey with us and what you're doing. And thank you for taking care of the community as a whole.
My pleasure, CJ.
And thank you for listening to The Journey is Real, where we talk to real people with real passions who share a real portion of the hearts. I'm CJ Peterson of cjpetersonwrites.com. Until next time.